We lost a great friend when Nick Mangold passed due to complications from kidney disease.
Just way too young. I feel so bad for his wife and family.
8:30 and he tells me that we lost Nick, and I'm like, what do you mean we lost Nick? And he's like, he's gone, brother.
He wasn't a skilled position player, but he was as skilled as anyone to ever lace them up. He may not have scored touchdowns, but he created hundreds of them. For 11 seasons, Nick Mangold stood in the shadows of the spotlight, holding back chaos one snap at a time. He protected legends, led warriors, and was the pulse of New York Jets football. And for decades, he fought his last battle with the same quiet strength he showed every Sunday. Even now, long after the final whistle, his presence still holds the huddle together. This is the story of a man who defined toughness on the field, in his city, and in life. Nick Mangold, forever under center.
It's just really unfortunate what happened, and it's tough and it's heartbreaking for his family, and of course all our love and prayers go to them, but it's also been really special to see how many people he impacted, man, and just to see the amount of people that really share the things you'd really want to be known for, man. Just the ability to crack a joke and encourage and inspire and make a room better. Man, what else would you want people to say about you?
When the news broke on the last Sunday of October, it hit like a freight train. Nick Mangold, the mountain in the middle, was gone at the age of 41. Complications from kidney disease took the life of a beloved New York icon far too soon. He hadn't snapped a ball in nearly a decade, but for Jets fans, his presence never really left the field. His name still echoed through tailgates in the locker room, the way legends do when they've become part of a franchise's DNA. But that's because he was the spine of an era that defined Jets football. When toughness was the brand and green and white meant grit, not glamour. Every play started with him. Every huddle leaned on him. And long after retirement, the city he anchored still saw him that way, as its center in every sense of the word. What made number 74 different was the way he played center. It was like a calling, part science, part sacrifice, brains before biceps, courage before credit, and every Sunday he walked into chaos and made order out of it. But Nick Mangold's story was never just football. It was about what happens after the snap, how he carried that same steadiness off the field into his family, his community, and his cause. It showed in the way he went public with his illness, asking for a kidney donor and thanking his Jets and Ohio State families for their love.
And one of the toughest Jets out there is going through, as he describes, a tough stretch, and center Nick Mangold needs your help.
That humility and outreach, even in pain, was pure Mangold. It was Big Nick giving the world one final lesson in strength and grace. Now, if you ever believed football was about more than a scoreboard, then you already understand what this guy stood for. And all of the things he did stand for came from the kind of place that still believes in hard work, family dinners, and high school football on autumn Fridays. Centerville, Ohio, a town that doesn't really raise stars. It raises neighborhoods and teammates. You see, Nick wasn't born into greatness. He was built by reputation, by sweat, and by showing up when no one else did. At Ohio State, he carried that same blue-collar defiance. He wasn't supposed to be the headliner. Hell, that was the last thing this guy ever cared about. But on every snap, the offense started with his command. A line general with the instincts of a linebacker and the composure of an orchestra conductor. Although, come to think of it, he'd probably laugh at those analogies. After Columbus, Mangold became the first Buckeye center ever drafted in the first round in 2006.
With the 29th choice, the New York Jets select Nick Mangold, center from Ohio State.
And it wasn't flash that New York saw in him. It was the trust that Nick's Ohio State teammates and coaches put in him. Whether they knew it or not, the Jets were drafting more than an offensive lineman. They were drafting the foundation of their franchise for the next 11 years. When he got to New York, Mangold fit the city perfectly. He was tough, straightforward, and blue-collar in a green uniform. Under Rex Ryan, a friend and mentor, Mangold became the engine of an identity. Ground and pound football. No gimmicks, no glamour, just violence with purpose. Every play started with him seeing the chaos before it happened, pointing protections, reading blitzes, and steadying the huddle. Regardless of what was going on around him, Mangold was never a quote machine for the press. He was the guy everyone followed without needing to be asked. In a city of noise, he led with silence that is now beyond deafening, and New York loved him for it. Not like a celebrity, but like a neighbor, like family. Somehow he made fans proud to say they rooted for an offensive lineman. Because in that era, when Jets football meant toughness and heart, Nick Mangold was the epitome of both. Now, some people call football a game of madness, but Nick Mangold was the calm inside of that madness. He was more than just the Jets center, he was the team's compass, the guy every play orbited around, and the accolades followed. 7 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pro selections, 171 starts, and every one of them began the same way. Big Nick's right hand on the ball, his voice steady, and his quarterbacks trusting him with their lives. But more impressive than anything was this guy's approach to the game. In an era when so many athletes are laser focused on the me, Mangold was always about the we. That's why we would be doing him a dishonor if we didn't at least mention the guys he lined up with. Because Nick would be the first to remind you that he didn't work alone and he didn't achieve greatness in a vacuum. He was the anchor of one of the most respected offensive lines of its era, a trench unit that played with violence and intelligence in equal measure. The quiet technician, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, the enforcer in Brandon Moore, the artist and Hall of Famer Alan Faneka, and the veteran hammer of Damian Woody. To Nick Mangold, these weren't just guys he worked with, they were a cohesive unit. Architects of punishment that created running lanes where none existed. They kept quarterbacks upright even when they didn't always make it easy. And they built a culture the rest of the league envied.
Caught by Powell at the 20 with blockers to the 10, down to the 9.
That offensive line didn't merely block defenders, they exemplified an entire era of football. Back-to-back AFC championships, a franchise reborn through grit. And at the center of it all, pun intended, was number 74. Because when the pocket held and the crowd roared, it all started with him. And when things fell apart, he never pointed the finger anywhere but at himself. That's leadership. That's how legends carry themselves during the tough times. And it wasn't just the guys who lined up with Mangold who loved and respected the man and his game. It was some of the best players in league history.
You want to talk about one of the stalwart,
Come on, man.
best offensive linemen to ever play the game.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people come up and tell me, you're the best center to ever play. I get that from other people. And it's hard to receive that because I know in my heart that Nick Mangold at his best was 10 times a player than I ever was. Nick was phenomenal. He was unbelievable in pass protection. He was an unbelievably smart leader and getting those guys on the same page. And he would murder people in the run game.
But there was no relationship that defined that era more than the one between Nick Mangold and head coach Rex Ryan. 6 years together, 6 seasons of shared battles in the trenches for 2 of the most hard-nosed but fun-loving guys the league has ever known. When Mangold's death was announced, Ryan was devastated.
That's just, it's brutal. It's such a great young man. I had the pleasure of coaching him for all 6 years with the Jets. And
even in the moments that didn't make headlines, Ryan never forgot the loyalty Mangold showed him.
I remember it was obvious I was getting fired. My last game, Mangold's injured. And he comes to me and says, I'm playing this game. And he wanted to play for me. That's what I remember about this kid. He was awesome and just way too young. I feel so bad for his wife and family.
That's the kind of connection they had. Coach and center, father figure, and field general. Rex built his teams around attitude, belief, and guys who bled green and white. And no one embodied that more than Nick Mangold. Ryan's defenses brought the noise, and Mangold brought the silence. That's the stabilizing force that made sure the Jets never flinched under pressure. He wasn't just the center of the offense, he was the essence of Rex Ryan's entire identity as a coach. That's what made that Jets locker room so special. They were brothers. They fought, joked, bled, and believed together. When Rex barked, Nick smiled. When things went wrong, Nick steadied everyone else. He was the guy who made a joke in the film room just to break the tension, then walk into the huddle on Sunday like a general marching to war. Teammates loved him because he made the impossible look routine, and coaches loved him because he never asked for anything in return. It's no wonder that years later, when the news hit, the loudest voice New York ever knew, Rex Ryan, could barely speak. Because Nick Mangold wasn't just one of his players, he was one of his guys. And that bond, the kind that survives seasons, teams, and even time, was the clearest proof that number 74 didn't just play football, he held people together. Now, when Nick Mangold hung up his helmet, he didn't walk away from the game just from the noise.
Nick Mangold, center, number 74, and I'm retiring a New York Jet.
In retirement, he found peace in the simple things: family, food, and giving back. He coached youth football with the same patience he once gave rookies, and he showed kids what real leadership looked like: steady, kind, and relentless. Through Mangold's 74 barbecue, he built something bigger than a business. He partnered with Answer the Call to help families of fallen New York first responders. Every bottle of barbecue sauce sold helps a hero rebuild their life. He didn't do it for headlines. He did it because that's who he was. The same guy who snapped the ball through broken fingers now fed firefighters and cops who'd lost everything. Strength, service, simplicity. That was Nick Mangold's second act, and it's an absolute tragedy that it lasted for such a short time. For more than a decade, Nick Mangold had overcome every obstacle he ever faced. The noise, the pressure, the wear and tear of 11 NFL seasons, but this fight was different. Chronic kidney disease, a battle he carried in silence since his rookie year. On October 14, 2025, he made it public with a plea. Not for sympathy, but for awareness. His message was simple: looking for a kidney donor, love you all, go Jets, go Buckeyes. 11 days later, he was gone at the age of 41. The city that prided itself on toughness fell silent because it wasn't supposed to happen to him, not to the guy who'd never been knocked backward. But even in death, Nick Mangold led. He turned his illness into a call to action, a lesson that real toughness isn't about power, it's about grace. And that's what we should all remember about him. What we should tell fans too young to remember number 74. That toughness and kindness aren't opposites, they're two sides of the same coin. Some players chase greatness, but Nick Mangold embodied it. He's in the Ring of Honor, an Ohio State Hall of Famer, and future Canton member. We guarantee that. But more than the accolades, Nick is remembered by every teammate who never had to look over their shoulder when he was snapping the ball. Because when number 74 was in the huddle, the world made sense. He held it together on the field, in the locker room, and in life. He was the rare kind of player who made you believe that power and peace could live in the same man. Because Nick Mangold didn't just play center, he lived it. He was the center of the line, of his team, of everyone who ever knew him.
We miss you, buddy. We love you. Your legacy will live on. Not for your performance on the field, but what you did in the community. We love you, buddy. Rest in peace.
Now, if you believe football's greatest moments happen far from the end zone, and if you believe in the men who do the dirty work so others can shine, then you already know why Nick Mangold mattered. He never chased glory. He created it for everyone else, and that's why his legacy will never fade. Nick Mangold, forever under center.